This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet, a slim front pocket wallet available in carbon fiber and titanium. With more than 250,000 sold, a lifetime guarantee and free shipping, get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH at ridgewallet.com. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for our final Challenger deck upgrade video. So all this week, instead of instant deck tags, which will be back next week, don't worry, but all this week we've been upgrading the Challenger decks. We did the Hazoret Aggro deck, we did the Second Sun Control deck, yesterday we did the Mardu Vehicles or Vehicle Rush deck, so today we wind up our series with Counter Surge. So Counter Surge is kind of the green-black Constrictor or Sultai energy style Challenger deck, and the deck itself, it's sweet. So right out of the box, you're basically getting an aggressive sort of mid-rangey deck with a +1/+1 counter / energy sub-theme going on. So the advantage of this deck is it's really cool. Like +1/+1 counters are one of the most fun themes to build around and play. So I think that Counter Surge will be popular for that reason. On the other hand, this is probably my pick for the worst of the Challenger decks for a few reasons. First off, the mana is really bad. Like, it looks like a limited mana base almost, so that's strike 1 against the deck. Strike 2 against the deck is, it's the least, I think, synergistic. It has scattered synergies. You have, like, some energy synergies, then you have some +1/+1 counter synergies, and then you have some stuff that I don't even know why it's in the deck. Dream Stealers, Gantes, stuff that doesn't really work with any theme, Scrap Heap Scrounger. So this deck, it kind of doesn't have an identity. A lot of the other decks, like Mardu Vehicles, the Vehicle Rush deck, it was dead on for the tier builds of Mardu Vehicles. Even the Second Sun Control deck and the Hazoret Red deck were pretty much dead on for their tier archetypes. This one is just kind of all over the place, which is a little bit disappointing. However, with some upgrades, we can kind of fix the problem. So first off, we're going to talk about $20 upgrades. So you buy the $30 Challenger deck, and then you add in $20 more on top of that. What is the right path forward for making this deck as competitive as possible with those upgrades? So step 1 is we kind of focus in on the energy theme. We bring in 4 Bristling Hydras, 4 Servant of the Conduits, which are some of the best energy threats in the format. They work well with the Rinding Constrictor, they help with the Long Tusk Cubs and the Glint Sleeve Siphoners that are already in the deck. To make room for those cards, we cut the cards that are basically themeless. We have to keep some of the +1/+1 counter stuff because we just don't really have a choice. But Ganti, Dream Stealer, Scrap Heap Scrounger, the Ganti can be good in the sideboard for more grindy matchups, maybe Dream Stealer as well, but they gotta go out of the main deck because they just don't synergize with the deck's plan. They don't interact with energy, they don't interact with +1/+1 counters. The good news is, these upgrades are pretty cheap. Bristling Hydra is like $1 a copy, Servant of the Conduit's like 50 cents a copy, so we still have a lot of budget left over, which means we can go full force towards upgrading our mana base, which was the biggest weakness of the deck. So we cut a bunch of basic lands, bring in a couple more copies of Blooming Marsh, which is our most expensive part of the upgrade. I think 2 extra copies is around $12, so that eats up a lot of our $20. Evolving Wilds, mostly free. Scavenger Grounds, a nice hedge, very important to fight against Scarab God decks. As I mentioned, to make room, we cut out some of the basic lands. The end result is we end with the Counter Surge $20 upgrade deck, which is kind of the same idea as the initial deck, but we're much more focused on the energy theme. We're basically a somewhat budget-friendly green-black energy deck, and we get rid of a lot of the anti-synergies that were going on with the first deck. The cards that just don't really make sense with the theme. So we have Winding Constrictor to double up everything. Glint Sleeve Siphoner, Long Tusk Cub, good 2-drops for an energy deck. Servant of the Conduit to ramp us into Bristling Hydras on turn 3. Verdurous Gearhulks on turn 4 is our big finisher. Rishkar is a fine card in the deck. It adds a bunch of counters, gives us a sweet nut draw. Sometimes we just Winding Constrictor on turn number 2 and then Rishkar on turn 3 to put 4 counters on our creatures, just make them huge threats. So I think that this is actually a pretty functional deck. I'm pretty happy where this deck turned out. So if you are going to upgrade Counter Surge, this is where I would try to end up. The budget is not too bad. The pieces, while really powerful, like Bristling Hydra and Servant of the Conduit, not all that expensive. We lose a lot of the anti-synergistic cards. The mana is better. So I feel like one of the upsides of Counter Surge is the $20 upgrade build might be the most powerful of the upgrade decks. Like, this deck is really solid. However, if you want to take it further than $20 and go towards the full tier upgrade, that's when you got a big problem. The problem with trying to go full tier from the Challenger deck is it is ridiculously expensive. So the tier 1 build of the Counter Surge deck is basically the Sultai Energy deck, which is going to mean copies of Scarab God. It's going to mean copies of Carnage Tyrant. It's going to mean all 4 Walking Blizzards. You get 1 in your deck, you need 3 more. It means Vraska's Contempt, a full playset or at least 3 of them. And all these cards are ridiculously expensive. Just these cards for upgrading is well over $100 and pushing closer to $200, and that doesn't even include some of the lower level upgrades. Jadelight Ranger, it's like almost $10 a copy. Liliana, $7 or $8 a copy. You need the rest of the Fatal Pushes, that's still a good $6 a copy. Botanical Sanctums, to splash the blue mana, that's another $24 for the playset or something. So I would recommend not trying to upgrade to the full tier build from the Challenger deck. I just don't think it's worth it. Sultai Energy is one of the most expensive decks in Standard. It is a tier deck, it is a very good deck, but the difference between your $30 Challenger deck and the $467 tier build of Sultai Energy, it's just too much. Like, if you want Sultai Energy, don't even bother buying the Challenger deck. Just buy the cards you need for Sultai Energy. I don't even think it's worth trying to upgrade like that. So I think the bottom line with Sultai Energy is, out of the box, I don't really like it. I think it's kind of mediocre, one of the worst of the Challenger decks, because of the clunky mana, and the cards are just, it's one of the worst built. It's probably the worst built, because of the cards that just don't line up with the theme, when the other decks, they were very much on theme. Every card made sense. This deck actually has a lot of cards that you're like, why? Why Dream Stealer? Why Gonti's in the main deck? Why Scrabby Scrounger? What are you doing, Wizards? So I don't like it out of the box. I do really like the $20 upgrades. It's one of my favorite $20 upgrade decks. I think that is the plan for Counter Surge. You buy it, you plan on immediately putting in that $20 extra to have the like green-black energy deck, which looks pretty solid, but know that it's not really worth upgrading further because it's just way too much money to get to the tier build. If you want the tier build, just forget Challenger decks, plunk down however much money you need, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to buy Sultai Energy. Anyway, that is my plan for upgrading the Counter Surge Challenger deck. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.